This is an upper limb offloading technique where essentially we're going to take the weight of the upper limb, and then we can also modify the scapular position if we find that's warranted. So this may be indicated for a range of things, from some of our very sensitised neural tissue, where people may come in holding onto their arm to take stretch off those nerves, maybe our AC joint subluxations or even our glenohumeral subluxations or early dislocations. We want to take the weight of the arm and stop it dragging down on those torn capsular structures. It can be some of our subacromial pain syndromes and so on. So we're going to do two strips initially, one where we come from behind and then another from the front coming over to create some of this elevation and upward rotation of the scapula. For this first strip we need to come into the short position, which is going to be into some extension and a little bit of a shrug of the shoulder. Start well down the arm so we leave ourselves a nice anchor point and also have a long lever arm to maximise the torque production we can get out of the tape. So we're going to anchor there. Don't simply pull on that or you'll create blisters here. We need to make sure we anchor well with our thumb, tension on over the whole piece of tape, smooth that down, ensuring we're coming behind the axis of the shoulder, and then simply stick down towards that coracoid with a nice anchor point with no tension. As the arm drops down, this is going to lengthen and start to give us a force vector upwards to take some of the weight of the arm. We can then turn around and we can do the front strip. So just watch starting on the inside of the arms. That's an area that breaks down quite easily, so we want to come a little bit more laterally, and also don't start too close to the elbow because then every time they bend up it's going to lift the end of the tape up. If you really want to try to create a posterior force vector on the humeral head, you can start a little bit more posteriorly and wrap around, and by starting posteriorly and finishing posteriorly we get a sort of slingshot effect resisting that humeral head anterior translation. For here though, we'll just start more anteriorly. Again, nice big anchor point. Peel your backing paper off enough to get to the shoulder when you're first starting out with this, and elevate once again, and then we can shrug them up and upwardly rotate a little as well. Tension, anchor on, tension on. Just pull that to the front of the humeral head and then sweep down. Then we can continue on down and across the back. We're basically aiming towards the opposite hip, and we can just, again if necessary, come in and upwardly rotate and retract them a little if they're unable to get the feeling of that. We can then come down. Now if we have clothing to negotiate, we can just simply slip that through, and we want to have a nice long anchor point at this distal end, particularly if they're a thrower or something along those lines where they're moving quickly, because fast movements will increase the stiffness in the tape and therefore the amount of force being transmitted to that anchor point. So keep our tension on, smooth down, and then no tension once again at the end. And as we drop down, that's again going to take some of the weight of that shoulder or that upper limb. If we felt like we needed a little bit more retraction, then you can always come in and put a more horizontally directed piece of tape in. It's often not necessary, but we could come in, again, start fairly anteriorly. Don't just start on the humeral head because you're going to have anchor, you'll be anchoring and tensioning in the same spot. So make sure you leave a nice large anchor point and then correct from this position. So again, we can just slip under the clothing. Try to anchor on skin if possible. You'll get better adhesion. Make sure there's no tension on that. And then we can come to here, and this is where we're going to start that retraction. So again, peel your backing paper off so we get uniform tension. Come in and you can correct them. Tension on. And then if we just turn you around once again, Aaron. And then we can come through. And again, we need to finish off the scapula if we're hoping to affect scapula relative to the trunk. So same with our second strip. If we just finish on the scapula, we can affect humerus relative to scapula, but we're not going to get so much affect the scapula relative to the trunk motion. Now, as the arm comes forward, this is really resisting and it's encouraging that scapula to come back into that position when she returns.